Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'll be doing a fill, and I just want to tell you guys thank you so much for sticking around after maybe I think I was away for like 7 months. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. And I didn't tell you guys that YouTube took away all my watch hours, so now I'm basically starting over from scratch to get my watch hours up so I can get monetized. Can you imagine? I worked so hard to get all my watch hours. I feel robbed. You know what I mean? When I came back on, I was like, what's happening? I wasn't aware that. Well, I think this is something new because I've been watching videos and I saw a lot of people complaining about their watch hours that got taken away. So basically I'm starting over from scratch, guys. I'm so disappointing. Had I known, I would at least try to post a video once a week or once a month, but they took all my watch hours away. But guess what, I'm gonna keep going because this is what I want for myself, and I just took a break because I feel like I needed it and I had a lot going on. But like I said before, back to the video. My client, she came in for a fill, and the first thing I do is I remove the polish and I debolt the nail and remove any sign of lifting. You cannot fill a nail over the polish or any top coat, obviously, so you have to go ahead and remove all your polish. And during this process, it's easier to just go ahead and debolt the nail if needed. Also, if you have any type of cut down to do, this is the perfect time to do that. I'm currently using a coarse bit to do this because I feel like it gets the job done way faster. So you never want to leave any lifting on your client's nail when you're doing a fill. You want to make sure that, especially on the sides like how you see that I'm doing right now, any sign of acrylic that's lifting, you want to make sure that you go ahead and you remove that because you don't want your client's nail to chip easily. And also, if any other part of the acrylic is lifting, like the cuticle or around the side walls, all you have to do is use your drill bit and lightly feather the lifting away. You do not want to use a nipper because this is only going to create more problems. So you want to make sure that you use the tip of your bit while you're being careful about your client natural nail, because you have to remember, like, after the acrylic, immediately that's your client's natural nail and you don't want to cut into it. But like I said before, you want to remove all the lifting. Like for her, the sides, it had like all old acrylic, so I had to go ahead and remove that so that way I could put new acrylic on, because when I give my clients a set, I'm expecting it to last them minimum 3 weeks. So I try not to do any shortcuts because they're going to text me 2 days or 5 days and say, Chelsea, my nail came off, or my nail chip, can I come in? And I really hate to do fixes, so I make sure that I get all the job done. Like I said before, this is a coarse bit that I'm using. Also, it just makes sense to go ahead and do your cut down if necessary in this part as well. So it's very, very important because some people, they're in a rush, so they leave all this lifting on the side, but it's just going to cost you more time in the long run. So please make sure you're removing all your lifting and replacing it with new acrylic. And if it needs be and you have time, you have to let your client know that if it's necessary, you have to take the nail off, and you can charge them an extra $5 or something for a nail fix. But for me, I hate when my clients text me and say, oh, can you fix my nail, because I really hate doing fixes. So I'm just gonna come in and do a light cut down on her nails while I have my coarse bit in. Now I'm just going to come in with my cuticle bit. If you struggle with getting close to your client's cuticle, if you're scared to cut your client, I highly recommend this drill bit because it gets extremely close in your cuticles and it gets in those side walls very easily. So please make sure you have a cuticle bit, especially for persons who are scared to get close and get all the way in those side walls, because this really helps with lifting. Anything that prevents lifting, you have to take all the necessary steps. And for some clients, they really do need this cuticle bit. Mind you, not all my clients I use this cuticle bit on. It all depends on what I see and what I analyze. I'll go ahead and I'll use the cuticle bit, but for some clients they struggle with lifting, so I do have to take like extra steps. Mind you, the cuticle bit is not 100%, it's not like you have to use it. This is just something extra that I do most times, not all the times. You could have go ahead, you could have went straight in with your sanding band. So when I'm using my sanding band, is at 5,000 rpm, between 4 and 6,000 rpm. That's where I keep my sanding band. And you want to make sure that your pressure is very light. You don't want to apply too much pressure to your client's natural nail. You're just trying to remove the shine, because our body produces oil and this oil happens to be on our natural nails. So you want to remove the oil, that way the acrylic bonds properly to the nail. Now I'm just going to come in and give my client's cuticle a light trim. You do not have to cut your client's cuticle if you're scared. It's better be safe than sorry. But for me, I come in with my nipper and I give it a light trim because it makes my cuticle work nice and clean. After that, I remove the excess dust and I'm going to come in with pure alcohol and use this to dehydrate the nail. Dehydrating the nail just helps the acrylic to bond better to the nail. And this is me priming before I apply my acrylic as well. So after you dehydrate, then you prime. So now I'm going to come in with my first bead, and guys, let me tell you, today the salon was very hot. So the acrylic was drying super fast. I had to go to the back and change the temperature to 72, trying to get the place to cool down, because I'm telling you, if the place is hot, your acrylic is going to dry super fast. I was thinking about putting the dabbing dish in the fridge, but I was like, no, I don't have time. I have a very busy day, so let me just go ahead, turn the temperature down and see what's the best I could do. It did get a little bit better, but the first bead that I put down, that was not it. It was drying super fast. So if your acrylic is drying super fast, it means that the room is too hot. And if your acrylic is super runny, it means the room is too cold. So my sweet spot is like 74 degrees. Usually when I keep it there, my acrylic have a good flow. So maybe you should try that if you're struggling with this as well. So in the video, we're doing a fill, so most of my beads, they're going to be focused on the cuticles, because as we know, the fill is usually cuticle work. So I'm going to place this bead just above the cuticle and gently tuck it back, and I'm trying to avoid any type of overflow in the side walls and the cuticle area. Mind you, if I have any type of overflow, you can easily use the tip of your brush to clean up. There's no need to panic. All you need to do is use the tip of your brush. Also, I'm building my free edge with more acrylic, because I had removed most of the acrylic that was lifting, so now I have to come back and build the free edge and the side walls. Wherever I remove acrylic, I have to put it back. So like I said, when you're applying your acrylic, you do not want to overwork it. You have to give it gentle taps and feathering motion. As you can see, I'm using the belly of my brush, because the belly of the brush forces the acrylic to move faster, because the room wasn't like, remember I told you earlier that the room was too hot. So I mean, it wasn't enough time for the acrylic to get cool. So the belly of the brush was the perfect tool to use, part of the brush to use, because it basically has more pressure to it. So the belly of the brush, that's where you can get the most pressure if you're trying to apply force to the acrylic. And in that little area, I'm just going to come in and I'm going to fill that little gap, because I noticed that there's a hole in it. So you don't want to leave no type of cracks on your sides or in the cuticles, because that can cause lifting. So like I said before, I'm just gonna come in, fix the free edge because I removed the old acrylic, and this is going to give my client's nail more longevity just by me removing the old acrylic and just replacing that with new. And I know the acrylic was old because it was brittle, it was chipping off, it looked like it was lifting away from the sides. My next bead is going to be my cuticle bead, and when I place my bead down, I place the brush and gently press it. That way the acrylic flows from off the nail, and then I tuck it back into the cuticles. Acrylic application is something that you really have to practice. It's nothing that comes overnight. It just gets easier with you practicing. So you have to practice every day. The more you do the nails, the easier it's going to become. I'm just trying to show you the opposite hand. When I started to do it, the acrylic cooled down and the flow of the acrylic was way better. Look at that. It was flowing so nice, so smooth. I didn't have to use the belly of the brush and apply too much pressure. I could use the tip of the brush. So that's a plus. So now I'm just seasoning my hand file, which means I use an old file and rub over the edges of the new file. That way I do not cut my client easily because these files are sharp. You have to make sure that you're seasoning your files to avoid cutting your client. So now I'm shaping the nail, so I'm just going to make sure that I hold my hand file super straight and I'm not over filing one side of the nail. I go from side to side. That way my nails does not become crooked. You also have to make sure you get underneath the nails. That way your nail doesn't look lopsided, because sometimes we're shaping the sides thinking that's why our nails are not looking sharp. But you have to remember underneath as well, any type of hanging acrylic or old nail that's hanging, you have to make sure that you go ahead and remove that. For example, you see from the sides right here, you just have to file the acrylic to be in line with the side walls, if that makes sense. So you can't have it like hanging. You have to be like a straight line from underneath all the way to the free edge. And then you're gonna shape the free edge of your nail. I like to go up and down, and when you're filing, you have to apply a lot of pressure or else you're going to be filing all day. So you have to put your back into it, like file it like you want it. Like a lot of people they're just massaging the nail. You have to make sure that you're applying pressure to it. That way you get done faster. And while you're shaping, you have to keep looking. You can't just file blindly. So try to make sure that you're looking at the nail as you file. That way you're filing with intention. You know what you need to file next. You know where it's going in a little bit too much. You know what's out too much. So file and look, file and look. Keep alternating side to side. That's how you're going to be able to shape nicely. So now it's time for the drilling. My drill is at like 18,000 RPM. I'm usually between 18 and 20,000 RPM. And the other day I drilled at 15,000 and that worked out super fine as well. So if you're not comfortable with 18 or 20,000, start where you are comfortable. Start where you can manage the drill. That's the most important thing. And then you can increase your speed as you get comfortable. So the bit that I'm using is a medium bit, and this bit is a Pana bit. I get this bit off of Amazon. I'm going to try to leave the link in the description box below, but the last time I searched for it, I noticed that it was not on Amazon. So when I'm drilling, I make sure that I'm sealing the cuticle. That's why I zoomed in, because I want you to see all the details that I put in the cuticles and the side walls. You want the nail to look like it's growing out your client's nail. Like, you don't want no bumps and lumps, especially around the sides and the cuticle. Try to make those areas super flat and connected to your client's nail. When you seal your cuticles and your side walls, it's not so easy for water to get underneath and start cause lifting or greenies. So you want to make sure that you're sealing the nail Sealing the nail really helps with lifting, because if you prep right and you do your cuticle bead right, if you're not sealing, it's still going to lift. So make sure you're following all the necessary steps when it comes down to lifting. Also, when I'm drilling, I keep the bit connected to the entire nail, especially over the surface of the nail like that. I make sure that the bit is connected throughout. That way, if there's any bumps, it's going to just smooth the bump out and blend in perfectly. Usually when I start filing, I go from the right and I make my way to the left. And everything I do, it's a routine, so that's why I'm able to move so fast. Every day when I do nail, I wake up and I do the exact same thing. I do not switch up my application, I do not switch up my prep, I do not switch up our e-file. None of that. Every day I wake up, I do the exact same thing. So now it's like muscle memory. I do everything so easy and so quickly because I practice the same thing every day. And if you're doing the same thing every day for 6 years, it's not going to be that hard. It's super easy for me right now to do nails, and that's why I'm able to come in here and teach you and show you how I do stuff. So please make sure that you are practicing the same methods every day. If you see somebody do something that you like, of course if you want to try it, it's always open, but you want to make sure that you have your routine. If you try it and you like it and you want to put it in your routine, that's okay, but make sure you have stuff that you know that you're going to do. That way you can start increasing your speed. Also, when you're filing, you want to keep your drill bit moving. Do not keep the bit in one place for too long, because this can start heating up and then your client's nail will start to burn. So try to keep the drill bit moving. This is how everything looks after. So now I'm just going to come in with my sanding band and I'm going to go over the surface of the nail. This just helps me to blend the nail together. Like for me, sometimes when I use my e-file, I'm not 100% satisfied. I feel like I want to see the nail come together nice and smoother. So I like to use my sanding band to do that. And also if you're polishing, it's always a good idea to use your sanding band as well. And I love to come and get my free edge nice and sharp with my sanding band. I always make sure that I include that for a sharp shape. Now I'm just going to buff. When I buff, I do not over buff. I just gently buff because I do not want the surface of the nail to be too smooth, because if it's too smooth, the polish chips easier. So you want to make sure that you're not over buffing the nail, because gel doesn't adhere properly to an extremely smooth surface. I'm going to be using this D&D polish for my base. This is 876, just like 876 nails. Yeah. So I'm just going to use this polish for my base color, because as you can see, I did use a clear acrylic. So now I have to use I need to find a base, and this base was super cute. It's D&D 876. I think it's called Flower Girl. And for some reason, these polishes keep bubbling up, and you see around the rim of my polish. Trust me, I clean it every day and it keeps doing that. If you guys have D&D polish and it's doing this, please let me know it's not just me, because I'm so frustrated. I do not know what else to do to keep the polishes from doing that. So we're going to be doing black Frenchies, and as you know, for my French, I usually just start from one side and then meet in the middle, coming from the opposite side. Do a line on the sides and then shade it. I know a lot of people have different techniques for doing French, but for me, ever since I started out doing Frenchies, I started like this and I practiced it this way, and it just got easy and easier, and now I'm so happy that I did it this way. I feel like if you are still searching for a way how to get your Frenchies right and you want to try this method, give it a shot. I just eyeball the sides, come from one side, and then I come from the other side, and I just meet in the middle. Remind you, when I'm doing the French, I'm looking at the curve, making sure it has that nice U shape. and then I shade it in as I go along. If I need to perfect the line, I just come in with the line. The liner brush makes a difference too. Like, you have to invest in a good liner brush so your French can come out nice and sharp and without all the extra messiness. You know, when the brush isn't a good brush, that just causes the French to be all over the place. So for me, I do love this brush. I think it's called, I can't remember. I know I left it in the description box a few times, but I'm gonna leave it again this time in the description because I do love it. And one trick to your liner brush, do not use acetone to clean your brushes. I just learned that the other day, that the acetone is what's destroying my brush. I spent so much money on nail art brushes, and I just figured that out the other day. So slow, but I'm sure maybe you didn't know either. So there you go. Stop using acetone. Use a brush cleaner to clean your brush. And the brush cleaner that I got for my brush, I bought it off the same website that I got the brush. Trust me, save money, buy the brush cleaner and clean your brush with it. Stop using acetone. So after that, I'm going to do a 3D flowers on the ring finger, and I was supposed to be using the molding gel. Couldn't open the molding gel. The cover got stuck. For some reason, it decided that it was not gonna come off. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and use my clear acrylic, because before we knew about molding gel, acrylic was the thing. So went in and I used my clear acrylic to make my flowers. This 3D flower brush, I bought it in a nail supply store. I think almost every nail supply store have this 3D flower brush. So if you see and you want to grab it, you'll see it, trust me. But what I do is, with my 3D flowers, I make sure that the acrylic is not too runny, because if the acrylic is too runny, it's going to be super hard to mold the flowers. You're not going to get that vibe from the flower if it's too runny, because then you have to sit the acrylic down on the nail, try to control the acrylic so it doesn't run, and then you start molding. So what I do is I make sure that before I set the acrylic down, it's not too runny. But you don't want to wait for it to dry for too long now, because then you can't mold it. It just have to be that consistency where you can mold it without it being too dry or too wet. If you want to speed up the process of drying your acrylic, you can just add some acetone to your monomer, and that's going to allow the acrylic to dry much faster. Mind you, 3D flower is not my thing. This is just, if my clients bring this design, I will do it, but it's not my first go-to, like, oh girl, let me give you a 3D flower. No. And also for this flower, I wanted it to have that flat wide look. You know how the molding gel be giving that effect? That's the look I was going for, and I feel I was very happy with the results as well. So after that, I'm going to use some pink polish to put some stems in it and border the flowers, give it more definition. This line does not have to be with a tape measure or neat. You just need to add some lines, and then as you go along, you're gonna see, okay, let me put more there, let me put more here. Just create something cute. You cannot really look on like a picture. To me, this design is like a marble. You know, when you do a marble design, the marble will not look the exact same. So for me, it's the same thing. If I'm doing a design like this, I just want to see the inspo, and I'm going to make it look cute or try to come as close as possible to the inspo. But for some designs, I do not try to replicate the inspo, because that's me setting up myself for failure. Let me tell you what designs I do not try to replicate the inspo. Swirls, definitely don't do that to yourself. If your client comes in with a swirl nail and you're trying to make all the lines the same, all the colors going in the same direction, trust me, you're better off just looking at the colors and try to have the same colors that's on the swirls. Try to give them those same colors and just have an idea of what direction the swirls are going, and try to replicate that. But do not try to do it exactly the same. I mean, if you're good at it, do it. but I'm not. I've tried that on several occasions and it doesn't work. And the next design is marble. Marbles cannot come out the same. I'm sorry, I've tried before, it doesn't work. Back to my 3D flowers. I said what I said, baby. The 3D flowers is coming out super cute, and that's the final results. Don't forget to like this video.